Somewhere you want to spend as many resources with the Beta Scion. If you have a match of this game where Cube, you do want to put resources into him, then it's kind of fine that you don't necessarily have a LeBlanc main. But I still expect Strive, you know, you have the choice of picking up something now or on that third pick, but I'd expect him to take something's first rotation to answer the LeBlanc so that they have a good matchup for now. You know, I said I didn't really like the Volibear for WeiWei. I love it for Leyan. I think it's a pick where he can really get the ball rolling.
It is just something that he can do so much in the laning phase, where can prioritize Cube, can get so. And again, we're seeing it time and time again when Leyan can be proactive. And it took a little bit of time there with the Heck Room because you obviously really do need that Onslaught of Shadows at level 6 power spike. But the Volibear cuts that a little bit in half. You can go from 3 onwards to get some good pressure down in those lanes. And now BLG going to take the Trundle as some sort of a mitigator as we get a Freljord fight in the jungle.
Yeah, Trundle, one of the few champions that can actually duel a Volibear just because you reduce his AD. You also have all that attack speed. A lot of champions do struggle in that regard, so I think it makes sense in this situation for BLG. Though my question is, are they just going to take, you know, Aphelios here? Again, we saw Jinx and Aphelios toned down, but they're still super strong, and I feel like you need to take your AD carry here as a response. Now, you know, there's obviously 3 roles where Adam could pick. They could either go for the mid laner to get Strive a good matchup to match. I think that makes complete sense when you have a Volibear and share that good mid-jungle 2v2. Or they could go for something else. They could take like a support like Tom Kench. They could take a top laner for Cube and then ban away counters. And despite the range nerf for Gwen, which has stopped us seeing her ban in the first rotation, we do see it picked up, and now Jace will be banned, and likely it'll be an Akali after that. Those two, the matchups can really punish the Gwen.
Yeah, Akali already taken away.
True,
honestly,
actually,
I think the last one.
They did their homework.
Kennen, I think that's the last ban. You got to go for it. The last real counter, even before the nerfs, was seen as a massive counter into the Gwen. So is going to give Cube a lot of priority, and that top side, the Volibear and the Gwen, that is terrifying for anyone on the top side of BLG.
And this is the thing, right? Is, you know, Strive can have a solid matchup in the mid lane, but you can play for your top laner now pretty extensively, which is what Leyan loves to do. It's no longer the Scion where you kind of in a scenario where, you know, sure, he did put some attention there, but you don't get that much value. BLG being banning supports of Rare, actually banning away the Thresh themselves.
Yeah, banning away the Thresh, not banning away the Kennen. Also, Renata has been left open as well. We saw that banned in the second rotation at game 1 by Rare Adams. So we'll see if Chris does feel like I don't feel like Renata Aphelios is an exceptionally powerful bot lane duo, but it's not really something you pick for the duo lane anyway. So maybe they're just saying, look, we tank that up and we go for the team fights later.
It just scaled pretty exceptionally because essentially if you put your W on Aphelios and he just stands there and is like, come at me, I can absolutely
with like chakrams and Severum.
It's such a good anti-dive combination. We see Red Arm go to the Nautilus, so a lot of single target CC between that and the Volibear. They want to lock down a target, so pretty happy in that regard. It'll be interesting to see if they do opt for that. Renata, you gotta look towards the Kennen. This is something that can match the Gwen pretty well early, right? Especially one of the things we're talking about is with the range nerf, him playing into range champions is a bit trickier. But they're not going to lock that in there. They are going to take that Renata. 100% win rate so far for BLG. Crisp, super confident, been spamming it in solo queue. Very respected, and it is open and available. We'll see what Breathe opts into here. And, you know, I talked about how it changed range matchups. It basically changed all the matchups, right? One of the big things into a melee champion, you're able to space quite well by autoing when they can't reach you. Into range matchups, that extra being able to get ranged auto is a big thing. They will go for the Kennen, so strong team fighting, good threat under the Jinx. And surprisingly, we talked a lot about the mid lane matchup, that first pick LeBlanc only being answered in the last pick by Strive.
Yeah, honestly, this is, again, just good kind of draft priority from Rare Adam. I will say BLG, they were looking towards the Jax. I do prefer the Kennen just because you are missing a pretty decent hard engage. Trundle very similar to the Volibear. It was like, yes, he kind of does have engage. It's very situational and doesn't really give you that same big impact, but the Kennen does absolutely that, and the Vex locked in here for Strive. We talked about it in game 1 draft about how it's just good at getting kind of counter into that LeBlanc, and it means that when they go in on that distort, you have got the fear, you have got the personal space shielding, you are able to deal with that big upfront damage, and honestly, all eyes go on to the top side again for Rare Adam. How can they make this early game advantage work for them?
Yeah, this is kind of a bit more expected, where we have Cube on that carry who's going to need that early attention. I expect we'll see mid be a point of contention just because if you can move your mid laners up towards the top, it'll make such a big difference. And I feel like there's so many mid laners, things like LeBlanc, Vex, and Ahri, that you pair with a Volibear, and it's like you just go top, level 6 or bot, and it's like towers off, dive in, kill them, get a double, get some plates, and you're out easy enough. So I think that's really going to be the goal for the side of RA, for BLG. You know, they have a pretty solid composition in terms of like more scaling elements we saw last time. The bot lane, if they don't get punished, because that's one of the things is Renata is a little bit weak in the laning phase with those long cooldowns, but I feel like in this game, we expect the attention to be top.
Yes.
Right? Based on how RA play, based on what they've drafted for themselves. If you leave the Renata and the Aphelios unchecked, I feel like I'm pretty confident they'll just be able to navigate their way through the laning phase. And if they get out, they are going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is, again, like you said, a bit more atypical of a draft that we expect to see from Rare Adam. And it's basically very similar to what we've seen them kind of go for all split. Of course, iBoy on his very, very happy Jinx there, just to try to make that one work for themselves. And again, I will say the importance of this game is actually pretty significant, because not only do you put Cube onto the Gwen, which is nerfed, and give counter pick over to the side of Breed, but you let through the Renata. If RA go 2-up in this series, this is a huge mental boom in the draft phase of saying, look, we don't have to fear the fact that you can get counter pick. We don't have to fear the fact that you get the Renata. We can go wherever we think we can get our strengths. And for BLG, it's about putting that fear back into the side of RA and saying, look, you cannot let us have these.
Absolutely agree with that one. And, you know, we've talked a lot about the Gwen. I will say something is that the range nerfs are big in lane, right? That's where it's significant, because it makes a difference to how you're able to find these trades, how you're able to get up close and go toe-to-toe with your opponent. In team fights, I'm not going to sit here and pretend the range nerfs don't matter at all. They don't matter nearly as much, right? You often, if you're either going to be able to get up close to your target or not, and you also have your ult to kind of bridge the distance. So it really is going to come down to, can they snowball Cube? And he has run the exhaust. This is kind of common into things like the Kennen, because basically he's very sort of front-loaded with his burst. If you're able to exhaust his ultimate, you can often out-sustain his subsequent damage. And if he doesn't 100-0 you, obviously with Conqueror, with her healing built into a kit, with Riftmaker as well, the Gwen will just sustain back up.
And then where do you want, we obviously talked about RA in this early game. We want to see this Volibear make moves towards Cube and maybe even Strife as well. Where do we want to see BLG prioritize? Because again, they have got the Trundle, and like you said, they have got the late game scaling, but in the early game, are they just happy to sit back and let things happen? As I see a little bit of a trade now as Crisp, sadly, going to take about half his H-bar off of this, but with the wave pushing in his favor, should be able to sustain it back up. But yes, where do you want to see BLG work towards in the first 5 to 10 minutes?
Well, I honestly feel like an early gank wouldn't go amiss, right? We have Ignite on the LeBlanc. That combined with the fact that you have a Trundle, you know, you can get the pillar behind the Vex. You should win out that 2v2, especially if you can burst down one of the targets. And the thing is, if you put mid behind, that makes it very difficult.
Yeah.
Oh, he's going for potential bot side play.
We talked about how we wanted to see them maybe focus on towards this top side, but no, they're going to go towards the bot. They're trying to bait them all in. There's going to be the dredge line coming out as Doggo in a lot of trouble. Going to flash away, but gets caught up anyway. First blood to iBoy, and it's been a long time since I've said that one. RA, focus on the bot side. BLG, they just didn't expect it.
Yeah, and, you know, he's going to get rewarded pretty substantially. And WeiWei, you know, he's cleared his top side. He's now on the bot side. Sure, he's going to be ahead in farm, but you're a Trundle. No one really cares too much about that. And the fact that we've already seen an advantage on the bot side, I kind of said, you know, this bot lane 2v2, having the Renata and the Aphelios, both of those champions are going to scale exceptionally. But the Renata in particular has a bit of a vulnerability in lane. So punishing that, finding that beautiful hook coming out from Yuyanjia, just a stellar start for RA.
Stellar start indeed, and RA, I'm loving what I'm seeing right now, because we're seeing them do so many different things out of the ordinary throughout the entire regular split. It was about Cube. It was about getting this man ahead, getting him onto carries. We talked about, you know, the entire top decking in terms of RA and how they build their compositions. Game 1, they just say, no, we don't need to. He's on the Scion. We can just basically work around mid and get the global objectives. Game 2, it does feel like they're saying exactly what you talked about. Renata is weak in the laning phase. Let's focus on that. Let's try to get iBoy into a position of power. And right now, BLG, they got to find a solution to it.
And I think it's particularly the thing when you have double ranged into the ranged melee in the bot lane, you're going to have prio early in almost every scenario, but you're going to be vulnerable to ganks, because those ranged champions often, especially when you get things like the Nautilus, you're going to get punished on the back of it. Now, we've seen that Leyan is a little bit behind on his clear compared to WeiWei, so WeiWei will get a double scuttle. I don't think Leyan cares. I think he's happy with the kill he managed to get for his AD carry. But Strive, you have to be a little bit careful here. Wave's in a bad spot.
Wave's in a very bad spot, and he has to try and put himself behind the minions because he knows there is an Ethereal chain coming, but he already knows he is dead FoFo gets the kill there onto the mid lane, and that's a good early gank. Like you mentioned, you wanted to see WeiWei try and have an impact. That's exactly what he did.
Yeah, so you apply that pressure in the early levels, and basically just means that if Strive is behind, going to be a bit harder for him to potentially find opportunities to move. One thing I will say is that he didn't bait flash, right? He accepted his fate, didn't try to go for some fancy outplay. So in terms of his individual power, he's not going to be down too much in that regard. But a nice move from BLG, and a little bit sloppy from Strive, being that he saw WeiWei, and then WeiWei just looped around, and he got caught out by that one.
Yeah, Strive now will have the TP, so will get himself back into lane. Is obviously only down the kill, but still able to kind of keep himself relevant. He's going to start the game off with an Ocean Dragon. Should be able to go over to RA pretty damn quickly, actually. They've got the full push in bot side before the Jinx can actually needs to reset, so this is going to be a pretty easy objective. And with BLG getting so many resets across the board, just, yeah, uncontested. I don't really think you can do much about this if you're BLG.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just gone. So Leyan should be able to secure this, and they actually might be looking for a fight here, but the Dragon's already missing, so I don't think it's
yeah,
really
I was going to say, Chris, you need to get the hell out of dodge there. They drop down the traps. They will have the Gravitum as well. They bring back Leyan as he gets caught out just a little bit. The fear goes down. They're trying to burn back onto WeiWei. One more auto attack will kill him off, but he doesn't quite go down. The Ignite and the red buff, not quite enough. And BLG do get a punish. Again, this is very early Dragon take for RA, but it's a kill for a Dragon.
Yeah, so I think RA is still kind of happy with that. Obviously, they'd love to be able to get the kill onto WeiWei, but losing one member, securing the early Dragon, they'll kind of take that one and just play it out from here. We have said that RA have that early priority towards those Dragons. It's something they want to pick up when given the opportunity, and they do so now. We're seeing the top lane playing out. You know, there is some minions to be collected from Cube with the wave stacking up, but he is falling behind. He is struggling. He's not having a fun time.
No, and again, this is something that Cube and Rare Adam just aren't used to. They aren't used to not saying, putting a lot of resources into that top side, and it has been a bit more about the rest of the map here for RA. I do appreciate the new look from RA, shows them have a little bit of diversity within their compositions and how they can play out games, but it is not without cost.
Yeah, and so I want to see potentially some pressure mid, and I think the big thing for me is Yuyanjia, right? You're on this Nautilus. You're going to have more of an impact if you find windows to roam than the Renata. Find an opportunity to head towards mid. It's not even just about a kill, right? Get some pressure, get some vision control, and that will give some freedom with this level 6 now hit by Strive, and Leyan's coming up pretty soon, to make that play towards the top side, right? Make that proactivity happen. And particularly, if we're talking about moving towards the top side of the map, it's a minute until the Herald is available. I think RA, you know, potentially can just set up for that one.
See what they want to go for. We are starting to see level 6s now being hit by the solo laners. The junglers shouldn't be too far behind it either. Strive with that Shadow Surge could start to look to roam. And again, we talked about the priority they should have on this bot side. I will say Doggo, he hasn't gone back yet, so he's going to take a lot of punishment here from this Nautilus and Jinx. And he's taking a long time. He'll go back and have an absolute boatload of money to spend, but when you haven't spent it, you're still so behind in this bot lane.
Yeah, and this is going to make it really hard for BLG ever to contest Herald, because Doggo is struggling to get a reset right now, and as a result, if RA can reset soon and head up towards the top side, they'll be in a great position. Now, when you see WeiWei in the vicinity, trying to cover his lane and potentially find that window, but Leyan is also in the vicinity.
Yeah, they're going to try and clear off this ward. They will pop down one of their own to try and say, look, we know that something is going on here. Now FoFo roaming down to try and catch out a Leyan. It's very scrappy, but there comes the ultimate from the Shadow Surge. Jumps straight back onto Chris, who does get the bailout. Can they get the kill? Yes, they can! And he gets himself revived. That is the power of the Renata. You try and go for the dive. She can turn it right back around. iBoy getting excited, but it's a 2-for-1 trade in favor of BLG.
And when you think about what RA has, the Renata is so frustrating when you're looking for a reset. Strive looking to get the reset on the ult. iBoy looking to get excited as well on the Jinx. Doesn't come through, and Chris able to turn it around. Just a bit of an overcommit there. And ultimately, the big thing is RA with disadvantage because FoFo had first move, right? He was getting there first. Leyan had to burn his ultimate just to not instantly die. We'll see the replay. I think that's the critical thing, right? Is having first move from your mid laner. The fact that you were in the enemy jungle makes all that difference. You're ulting out here. Sure, just going on Chris, but then heavy commit in this situation. Honestly, a little bit lucky for Chris. Probably should have used the W as he saw the Vex coming in. He survived from like 1 HP.
Yep.
And then the fear timed out and he was able to keep himself alive. So could have potentially backfired there.
Yep, could have gotten several resets there. iBoy was in a good position, and could have been a bad time as Crisp going to try and go against the manaless iBoy, and Bit of emotes there between the two on the bot side, but neither here nor there. It is about 1,000 gold lead coming in here for BLG, and a much better start. They're getting the early kills, and they're getting the early proactivity, but not to be dissuaded. RA saying, look, we're not going to be just letting this one go, and this is what we talk about with RA. They hard force compositions. They're just going to fight if they find an opportunity.
Yeah, but I mean, I talked a lot about how RA had the advantage in the bot lane because they had iBoy who'd already reset and Doggo hadn't all game. Talked about how the fact that moving the Nautilus, you can be more proactive, but they still don't get the Herald because of that misplay, because of that skirmish that was won out by BLG. So more, the tower's already nearly lost one plate, so you'll get it down at a pretty low level. You could also put it top where plate's gone down and look to try and snowball the Kennen. There's a range of options available, but BLG, they're really in control right now, and I'm kind of looking to see whether they'll use that Herald.
Well, they're going to maybe use the Herald, but RA still setting up dragons. And I will say again, they took the first dragon pretty much off of spawn, so this will be an incredibly early soul if they're able to secure this dragon. Now, we will see BLG in the vicinity, maybe looking to try and contest. The Trundle is there. There goes the traps. It should be an... Oh, no! That's not what you want to be seeing. There's going to be the hostile takeovers. They look to try and make this one work. The fear comes down. There's the W coming out, but Chris finally gets taken out. WeiWei in a lot of trouble. One more auto attack would have taken him down, but he's not quite done. There's the Shadow Surge back onto FoFo. Not quite able to hit the Super Mega Jet Rocket. You lose the dragon. You gain one kill. I feel like RA almost got themselves a perfect fight, but they just weren't able to secure the dragon, and just letting the Trundle that close is just desperate.
And you can see how precarious I feel about fighting with this Renata, because they're so cautious about overcommitting, losing a member when they've already looked at proc the W and then end up getting the revive and losing out overall. So yeah, they get a kill advantage, but losing the dragon, the steal coming in from WeiWei, BLG absolutely happy with that one. And you said about it being a potential very early soul. It's now being just extended by a minimum of 5 minutes.
Yeah, very early soul, no longer on the board. We're going to be looking at about maybe 25, 26 minutes roughly, despite, you know, depending on who it is. And I will say, if a small silver lining for RA, if they were looking for a fantastic soul, like a Hex soul or something, it's a Cloud. So it's not as impactful as most souls would be, but still would have been win condition nonetheless.
Yeah, and I will say for Kennen, it's pretty good by all means, right? I feel like also RA, a lot of their members really benefit from the soul, and particularly when it's a Gwen who doesn't have Ghost. It kind of serves as kind of a mediary for it. But we do see BLG, so they are going to go for the plates in the mid lane, but actually they find a window where with the Trundle, RA not feeling comfortable defending. You know, I talk about Herald uses mage being positive because you get 2 plates, and then you get it low enough to potentially pick up the second Herald, or, you know, if the enemy team goes amiss. I don't really talk about getting that first tower because it's normally so hard, but BLG get it, opens up the map, and now when FoFo has a pressure advantage in mid, a lot easier for him to roam and a lot harder for Strive to match. For
BLG, it's a 2,000 gold lead. RA starting to fall a little bit further behind. They have got 2 kills onto iBoy, so we'll be happy with that particular threat setup. But again, little advantage. Actually, 3 kills onto iBoy. He's finished up his Gale Force, and this is where we start to see if RA want to try and prioritize this. Cube going to see FoFo on the zombie ward as he goes back in underneath the tower, or back into the safety of his own lane. And now RA, you got to try and find something to do. You got to try and find an activity here for Leyan to try maybe an impact. We haven't seen any focus from either jungler coming up towards this top side. Want to see if they can maybe unlock this Kennen or even this Gwen to try and make something happen here for either of these teams.
Yeah, I think at this point, honestly, they're fine with Cubes doing his own thing in the top lane. Leyan potentially looking for something here, but it's so hard to dive this combo. The fact you have the Renata ultimate, the fact that it's an Aphelios in general, it just typically is a hard dive target as far as AD carries go. Very good when you're up close to him, depending on the gun, and just putting that damage up. Even here with the Infernum, if you try dive the tower, so much AoE damage. So
grab it up as well.
Yeah, they'll help crash the wave in, but I feel like it's pretty limiting into where you can apply pressure. That's why I felt like here top lane was the play, not just because of how RA play, but you know, BLG's bot lane. Yes, they're a bit vulnerable early, but they get to the point where it's a hard dive target. LeBlanc is LeBlanc, right? Inherently hard to deal with, and especially thanks to the Ignite and just the fact it's a Trundle, the 2v2 was going to go in favor of BLG. Top lane for me felt like the place to go, but it just never really came to fruition. And now, with more plates having been taken by Breathe as well, the gold lead is pretty significant.
It's pretty significant. 2,000 gold is pretty good here for BLG. It is pretty much 700 of it's on Breathe. I'd say another 1,000 of it is on Leyan. So it's trickled around about another 1,000 as well onto FoFo, and again mitigated again by bot sides.
I think a big thing to say, I mean, yeah, is that bot lane advantage, because iBoy has 3 kills. He has 1,300 gold up. That is significant, right? Jinx being fed. There's answers on BLG, right? I think any AD carry feels a bit nervous against Kennen, LeBlanc. But if RA are able to keep iBoy in this position of power, absolutely having a Jinx is going to be strong. And we talked about the nerfs earlier today. iBoy's level 9, all the nerfs are gone, right? Yep. That is, they only nerfed her Q in the early levels. It's exactly the same when it's maxed at level 9. So still have that same super carry Jinx.
Well, we are going to be past 14 minutes, so TPs have been unleashed. Unfortunately, though, for the side of RA, they will have neither cubes nor strives for this potential dragon fight, and it looks like they're just going to be able to probably just give this one up, get themselves the Rift Herald instead. Luden's Tempest being finished up here by Strive means that he's in a little bit stronger burst power available to him as they wait to see now what kind of a pressure point they want to try and work towards. The blue buff will be stolen. Leyan did see the ward, so he knows that he is on top of vision. He's just going to be able to take this one here, and Cube has hit level 11. So we are starting to hit significant spikes here for Rare Adam as they look to try and just make a play somewhere that isn't the Dragon Pit.
Yeah, not able to find anything top though. Breeze playing it pretty safe, and he is TP to assist bot, and that's the thing. As you said, they can't really contest on side. This absolutely needs to be a situation where they're countering, because not only behind in gold, but also, as you said, the TP advantage for Breathe. Worst case, I feel like when you have champions with TP, there's different tiers, right? Gwen TPing can be pretty hard to deal with. Kennen is a nightmare, right?
Kennen
especially if he's behind you. Detrimental, I feel like, is a soft way of saying it.
Bit soft, but so is this turret, as it's going to be cut through like butter here by the chakrams of BLG's Doggo. Chris there as well with WeiWei. So we're starting to see BLG accelerate a bit harder now. They're saying, look, yes, you have pressure in the bot side, but it is actually the first turret going over in terms of the bot lane to BLG, and they're still going onto this one as well. While the Rift Herald is being taken, WeiWei is tanking up quite a bit. WeiWei needs to be so careful. That's up taking over just enough, but that's 2 towers for just a Rift Herald. You need to get a kill here, and you need to get 2 towers for this to be worth here from the side of RA. But again, Breach just not going to allow it to happen.
Yeah, this is kind of, yeah, I mean, I feel like one of the things, if they got this top tower naturally, and then they also got mid lane tier 1, I'd be like, yeah, that's okay, right? It's more gold for BLG, but mid tower is so important.
Oh, Leyan. Oh, Leyan, he has to use his ultimate, yeah. He's going to have to try and get himself away. FoFo will get hooked, but
like, they're not even going to get, like, you're getting the Herald, and you trade down in terms of towers. So just absolutely not a favorable play by any means. So BLG coming out ahead, and we kind of saw that in game 1, where it felt like the mid-game decision-making, BLG were edging ahead in terms of trying to mitigate the advantage RA had. But here, BLG are the team who have the lead and are extending it as a result. Oh, Strive.
He's in a little bit of trouble, but Leyan is here. And that's enough to dissuade WeiWei and FoFo. You talked about that 2v2, but Cube will get this tower in bot side, you would imagine. 2 or 3 more auto attacks should be enough to be able to take it down naturally, and gets himself back on the board. So it's not all doom and gloom, despite the Vex being on RA, and it's going to be a little bit harder for them. But they are keeping in tow the gold. It is still roughly around the 2,000 mark, and as long as they can keep that competitive, you feel with the Jinx, the Gwen, the Vex, they have got big late-game guns to fight with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think execution is going to be a massive factor when we look at those team fights later on, because for me, I think when you look at the sort of front to back, where, like, we have the Gwen diving forwards, we have the Vex who can land the big ultimate to dive in, and then we have the resets for iBoy. Feels very comfortable, but LeBlanc and Kennen really shake that up. And as well as that, the Renata is a tricky factor to take into account. So BLG looking to contest this, and Leyan has no ult.
He has no ult, but he does have flash. He's going to be forced to use that pretty damn early alongside the heal. There's the Moonlight Vigil trying to burn him down, and it will do just that. The Infernum damage just perfect to set it up. At BLG, it looked like RA were setting up a little bit of a pincer move, get them to come in and try and overextend, but BLG called their bluff and say, look, Leyan, you don't have ultimate, you can't get away from us.
And I could have told you that Leyan needed a flash there. He held it for so long, and just ends up going down regardless, so a little bit wasteful. And now they're going to be able to take this mid lane tier 2. No real contest coming in, and it feels like BLG have done a really good job of taking these structures around the map. And as you said, the gold lead has extended points to 3,500. it's not like some crazy massive difference, but they've been steadily increasing it over time, and that last Passenger player was really what allowed it to bump up.
And the thing is, when you have a Renata as well, her passive does extra damage to the things she's auto-attacking. So when you're looking at things like the Baron, think B's big objective, you can shred them down. And again, this Leyan, he just holds it for way too long. And honestly, you're going to use it anyway. You might as well just flash before the Renata can get you.
Yeah, complete second item and a BF on top of that. Like, this is a strong Jinx, but I feel so much less nervous about a Jinx in a game where, as I said, fed LeBlanc for FoFo, Breeze really comfortable on the Kennen. And I think for BLG, this is kind of a point of the game where you can start to aggress pretty deeply into the enemy jungle, start setting up vision, using things like the Kennen TP flank potential, also just LeBlanc existing as a way to really choke RA out.
All right, 30 seconds until this dragon spawns. You have flash for iBoy, but no heal. Remember, he used to try and help Leyan, who also used his flash. Pretty much all flashes are up for the side of BLG. They're only missing one ignite on Crisp, which should be up fairly shortly. Breathe is already starting to look like he can get a bit of a flank going as Cube just keeps the rear guard safe, as the rest of BLG say, look, we don't have to fight for this. They could just barrel up towards that mid lane, but they're going to opt into it anyway. Dragon has just spawned. Now BLG start to move themselves back into the pit, into the river, seeing if they can go for something. Look at Cube and look at Strive. They're trying to see if they can find something. Yuyanjia gets hit by the pillar, will not be able to get him back himself out to safety. Dragon down to half HP. Now BLG go fully forward as FoFo tries to find something here. I don't think RA are going to be able to find anything, as there's the subjugate. Leyan has no health bar and he is taken down. There's the hostile takeover. More of a CC than anything else. Breed gets exhausted as he goes in with a slicing maelstrom. The Moonlight Vigil over the wall is good, but Cube trying to keep himself alive. Oh! Massive move from Strive. He doesn't get the
Doggo!
But Doggo is even bigger. Strive almost had the hero play, but Doggo shall not be denied.
And that's the Renata difference. Any other champion, and I feel like RA turned that. They got the reset, but it is denied onto Doggo, flashing into melee range of iBoy with the W up, brings himself back to life and finishes out the team fight. RA nearly find the turnaround, but it's not quite there.
Not quite there, and that's going to be a 5,000 gold lead. Soul point. Let's have a look at the replay here, because look at, like, yes, Yuyanjia gets chunked out here, but Leyan, I don't know what Leyan's thinking here. He gets subjugated, which means he has no resistances, and he just walks forward.
I'm not even going to pretend to understand what Leyan was doing here. I'm just going to disregard it completely. But I want to kind of hone in on the turnaround. It was so well played by Strive, connecting the ult with Fear. And I think it's like kind of that critical moment where one of the things with the W from Crisp is he could have used it here to save Breathe, but actually ends up saving it for Doggo. And it's so good that he did, because Doggo ends up, you know, we get the jump in, the resets are going to come out, Doggo goes down, but flashes in, gets his own reset. And honestly, if Doggo had died there, Strive getting the reset probably would have been enough. Yeah, I mean, they would have just won that fight.
It's just a game of inches sometimes there.
And Chris making the right call.
Yeah, 100%.
He let his top laner die and said, my AD carry is king.
Because at the same time, yes, you let the Kennen die, but the Kennen done its job. The Kennen had used a slicing Maelstrom. It's not really going to be able to do much else in a fight apart from poke, so you know where your carry lies, and that is in Doggo. Now 4-1-4, already got himself up to the Bloodthirster even, and even more survivability coming out here for this bot laner as Leyan just tries to get some kind of gold, some kind of levels right now, because he is falling further and further behind, and we're seeing time and time again this Volibear just doesn't seem to be it for either of these junglers.
Yeah, it feels like, I mean, game one, I feel like WeiWei just really didn't do anything. Leyan at least tried this game, but Trundle is a good match for it ultimately, but I feel like we kind of highlighted, you know, I wanted to see that early aggression get Cube ahead. It never really came out. And sure, RA's bot lane got ahead, but the problem is it's not enough just to get minorly ahead. The Renata is such a big factor, right? Scales pretty effectively. On top of that, it's just the fact that the resets that we're looking for RA to have can't come to fruition when Doggo just respawns, right? And especially now he has Bloodthirst to Gale Force. Great tools in terms of survivability.
Well, there's the Super Mega Dirt Rocket. Just hitting 2 people. Don't know what it was for. Maybe just to delay it back.
Just
but
people, they always do that to stop the reset because it's such a short cooldown. And yes, it's annoying. And yes, I think they should nerf the cooldown. But until they do, we'll probably keep seeing that.
we will almost certainly keep seeing that. We are going to see now Yuyanjia getting caught up. He's dead. Yeah, nothing you can do. And LeBlanc 3-0-6. This LeBlanc pick starting to look like a very powerful first rotation here for both of these sides. Both RA and BLG, both mid laners of Strive and FoFo having fantastic games on it in Game 1 and in Game 2. Baron now on the table. You do have the Cosmic Drive here for Cube as the rest of the team try to run in. You would love to try and wait until iBoy has just enough gold for that Infinity Edge, but I don't know if you can. I will say that's a fantastic pink ward right in the back of the pit. It could be a big flank for Cube.
100%. It sets it up, but it also means they have some information. They know that BLG aren't on the Baron. I don't know why.
Definitely know that they're not on it.
Maybe they thought they could have blast coned over the wall because they only have that ward in the pixel bush. So that's why they popped the ult, just to make 100% sure, right? They know they aren't on it. Absolutely now on FoFo looking.
Need to get him on the dredge line, but that's a LeBlanc. She's going to be able to distort back. Yuyanjia, that is just an unforced error right there. You don't have to go for her.
You knew they were there, and it's LeBlanc, right? You're not going to be able to pick off the LeBlanc, and now you can see Strive resetting. Yeah, I mean, maybe we see a TP come out for both of them. Pings are coming in.
Oh, here we
go.
looks
like they're committing. They have to try.
They got to try and go for something. They've got iBoy and Leyan up to the top side. It's going to be a bit of a pincer move. They know they're trying to go for it as FoFo's on the back end of this. They get Doggo down, but not quite killed off. That's the AD carry, though, being killed. And the Renata strikes again. The bailout is just so damn powerful. BLG get the reset. BLG get the Baron. BLG going to be bringing us to a 1-1.
And honestly, I'm going to say, I think they shouldn't have gone for Doggo. Go for Crisp. Like, every time, Crisp is just standing there like, oh, you're trying to kill my AD carry. No, thank you. They kill Doggo. Doggo just turns it around. And, like, I feel like an element of it is Crisp is very good at this champion. Don't get me wrong. But RA seems to lack understanding of how to deal with it. And this is another time where they'd be completely shut down. Something I gotta say, you talked about going in this game, if RA win, they'll feel like, hey, we can handle the Renata. They cannot.
No.
This is getting banned Game 3, no matter what happens.
Yeah, this is 100% not getting into the hands of Crisp whatsoever. And now, the Cloud Soul being finished up here. You can look at the replay as well, as FoFo just finds iBoy and says, goodbye, nothing you can do. It's an assassin.
And then look at this, right? They go on Doggo, but Crisp is just standing there, right? Renata is not a tanky champion. They could easily just blow her up in like a split second, but they commit everything on a Doggo, and it just ends up backfiring so massively. And I think, really, you know, obviously a lot of AD carries, if you have them not buffing them, can function well in that scenario. But Aphelios is just the one where, especially as you had red-white there, so good at dealing with those close-range threats.
Oh, Cube taking almost 100-0 there by FoFo. 4-0-8 on this LeBlanc. And this game does feel like BLG back in control. Feels like BLG got the answers they wanted. The Gale Force aggressive onto Yuyanjia. There's the Shadow Surge. They're going back onto Doggo, who has got the W on top of him. But this time around, they turn back onto Crisp. They just are too far behind. This game is done, and we got a series as this series is going to 1-1 in a best-of-5 in the playoffs.
Yeah, no way you could defend this, and it just feels like BLG, they managed to find a successful early game, but critically when it comes to those team fights, when they have the power, and especially with that Renata, they are very comfortable. They got to answer this and take us to an equal series.
Yep, equal to the series there. RA thought they could maybe give up a couple of priority picks. And again, if you win that game, it's huge for your momentum. It's huge for your mental. You can't let the Renata through. You don't know how to deal with it. You don't know how to, you know, again, Chris plays a fantastic Renata. That's not a question here, but you don't have a solution to it. Get it off the board.
Yeah, 100%. And I think particularly since obviously they commit to the Nautilus, knew what they're going up against. On top of that, like with the Nautilus, it's like single target CC. You invest your resources into dealing with the Aphelios, but then he just comes back and is capable of shredding through the targets up close. So I think draft was definitely a factor, but also just execution and how good Crisp is at this champion. This is why he has specifically been drawing bans and why they have now maintained their 100% win rate on that pick in the LPL, because he is exceptional.
He is honestly the best Renata in the league, and it's not even close. That's just the easiest way to put it right there. And you can see there, it was little by little, bit by bit. You could see moments where RA were maybe coming back into it, but with Doggo putting out this amount of damage, with FoFo having such threat onto iBoy, and straight up, Leyan just not doing anything on this Volibear. It's a very different look from RA, and it didn't work.
Yeah, and I set up the win cons, right? You play towards top, you look to use the Vex Volibear, get it snowballed, get Q behind, never came to fruition. And we saw like the early gank from WeiWei on a Strive. Things like that can really throw a spanner in the works because suddenly Strive has to play more defensive. You know, there's that threat. And as well, that WeiWei and FoFo had the winning 2v2, so they felt confident in just denying the pressure from RA. And I think any game where RA isn't able to put their first foot forward and find momentum is going to be a tricky game up against BLG. They will really bog you down and slow down your ability to make plays.
Yeah, and honestly, I see that RA, their last ban was in fact that Thresh, so it is just one of those things where I'm like, yeah, like it was fine. I understand the reasoning behind it. You gotta get the Renata off the board. The Thresh isn't going to do what the Renata does, because there was several times where the Doggo got caught. They had fantastic Shadow Surges going in on top of him, and he would have died had he not had a Renata. Literally the only champion.
That's the thing, if you have Thresh into Vex, and like, Vex hits ultimate onto Doggo, you can't land to him because then you just drag him into more people.
Yeah.